Today we continue with our second study on the Mahā Vedalla Sutta, the discourse on the Greater Catechism. It's question and answer with Mahā Koṭṭhita asking the questions and the elder Sāriputta answering them. So these are two great arhats discussing some key questions. This is a kind of very broad, miscellaneous questions and answers on the key teachings of Buddhism, of early Buddhism. Now, in the last lesson, we look at the first part up to section 9. We surveyed what are called the 5 aggregates. Okay, now we go to section 10 and see maybe we go a few sections as much as time allows us. Okay, you got to go up a bit. You go up, scroll up a bit because it's 23, 21, 18. Go to number 10, please. Yeah, section 10. Yes, that's right. Okay, so today we were going to look at on the mind, because at the end of the study on the 5 aggregates, we talk about the mind. The 5 aggregates are basically body and mind in some detail. And early Buddhism, the teaching of the mind is very important. It's the key teaching, in fact. But the mind doesn't exist by itself. The mind exists with the body. So we talk about what is called the conscious body. Conscious body, or saviññānaka kaya. Saviññānaka kaya, the body with consciousness. As human beings, our consciousness are the 5 senses, and the 5 senses fits the mind with data, sense data of 5 kinds: sound, smell, taste, touch. A sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and of course, the mind itself is also a sense. The mind also creates this kind of ideas in the mind. We have dreams, for example. And these dreams are based on past memories. They are based on our wishes, on our feelings and thoughts. So you have 6 kinds of sense data, which creates the mind. Okay? The mind projects what we experience. Okay? Of course, according to early Buddhism, what you see out there, which can be seen, heard, smell, taste, and touch, they are real, they exist in themselves. But we don't really experience them as they are. We tend to experience them as we have done in the past through our memories. It's just like when you see something. I mean, not everybody likes this thing, or like it in the way, or appreciate in the way that you see it. Let's say you meet a person, you have some idea of this person, and these ideas come from the past. So many of these things work like that. We tend to project the past onto the present. And that creates difficulty also, because we do not see the present anymore. So we think of this person and say, oh, this person is always like that. Now when we say always like that, we are saying it's like in the past. Of course, we may not be wrong. It's very difficult for people to change, in a sense. I mean, they can be their whole life, that kind of person. I mean, when the children, they were selfish, or when they were children, they were generous. So now they become older versions of those same qualities. They do not change. And in some cases, it can be terrible. For example, you find some of these, I don't know, some of these world leaders, when they're very young, they could be playing war games, they're very violent, and they become adults. They actually act it out in a very nasty way, affecting and making so many people suffer. Of course, there is very great karma, the very bad karma. So the Buddha reminds us to see things as they are, to directly experience reality. So we're going to look at this term direct experience today. What does it mean to say direct experience? Why is the word direct used? But before that, we will look at the sutta and see and continue where we left off the last time. Okay, so today we go to section 10. Here is Mahā Koṭṭhita questions about the mind that is free from the physical senses. Okay. Number 10. What Avuso do you understand by the purified mind consciousness that is freed from the sense faculties? Okay, let's just read through the answer first. Go down a bit more, please. So scroll down to the answer. Yeah. All right. So Sāriputta replies, Avuso, by the purified mind consciousness that is freed of the 5 sense faculties, it should be known thus. The sphere of infinite space should be known thus. Space is infinite. The sphere of infinite consciousness should be known thus. Consciousness is infinite. The sphere of nothingness should be known thus. There is nothing. Now, those of you who have studied Buddhism quite deeply know, of course, this tree refers to the formless attainments, or arupa jhana, if you will, arupa samapatti or arupa jhana. What is missing here is the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception. It's not mentioned here. So I'll spend a bit of time explaining these 3 things, these 3 states, and why the 4th formless viññāna is not mentioned. And before that, something more basic. What's meant by the mind freed from the senses? That this idea, the mind freed from the senses, is very important. It's the basic idea in Buddhist meditation. Why do we sit very still, close our eyes, let go of sound, smell, taste, touch, and so on? Those are our senses. Another question we can ask ourselves is, what is it that prevents us from meditating well, from meditating properly, from attaining this samadhi or consciousness? It's the senses. The senses are these 5 big monitors by which we engage with the world. We see the world, sound, smell, taste, touch, sight, sounds, smell, taste, touch. In fact, the mind is working all the time in these 5 ways, and not to mention the thinking aspects, so number 6 already. So you notice we have to decide which one do we want to attend to. And sometimes there's so many of these data fighting with each other for our attention, we get confused, right? That's one reason why we can't remember things, because the mind jumps about so fast that we don't get the details. We can't remember because we don't get the details. So the idea is to say focus with one of these senses, usually with the seeing. Okay. Of course, it depends on the situation. On any of the other senses also are important. So because these 5 physical senses are all the time competing for attention, the mind cannot attend to itself. The mind has to take care of 5 children, as it were. So the Buddha discovered this wonderful teaching where when you let go of the senses, the mind is able to become more calm, more peaceful, more clear, in fact. So that is what is meant here by saying that the mind is freed from the 5 physical senses. So another way of putting it is that the 5 physical senses actually act as the 5 hindrances. They cause us to want this, want that. That's the first one, sensual desire. And then it causes us to be upset or angry when we cannot get something. That's ill will. And then we think of this, think of that. We become restless. For example, we may think of, oh, what am I going to do next after this study or after this meditation? And then you want to jump to the future, and then you are distracted. That is restlessness. Or you're worried about the past. So what have I done? And this and that. I've broken a precept. You feel very worried about it. Restlessness and worry. Right? Of course, in this case, more to do with the mind. Eh? And then there is sloth and torpor. You become a bit tired because of all this inner fighting, mental fighting. So you get sleepy, you get tired. And then there is doubt. Oh, I don't think I can meditate. I'm not good at it, and so on. Well, we never think that when we meditate, we just meditate. Remember, my favorite analogy here is a little child learning to walk. This child doesn't have any opinion about itself. The child doesn't think, oh, I'm not good at walking. I can never walk. It doesn't think like that. The child just tries to walk. It's a really wonderful thing to see a baby walk, a child walking. That's the beautiful analogy of meditation. This child walks and then it falls. Some babies are really strong. They don't cry. They fall, they get up again. And they keep on walking. And after you see within a day sometimes, they learn to stand and then they learn to walk. So learning to stand, learning to walk is like getting focused in your meditation. Just keep on doing it, keep on doing it. The mind going off track, distracted is like the baby falling down. It gets up again, doesn't give up. So that's how we overcome the hindrances, by letting go of the 5 senses. And when you do that, the mind becomes more focused. The mind becomes more peaceful. Then you attain the first jhana. Right? First jhana, you've normal, all the senses stop distracting us. We just have a little bit of attention, watching the breath, or whatever meditation object it is, and then staying with it. That's called initial application, sustained application. And when you watch this, you feel joyful. And this joy keeps you going with this inner peace. And your mind is free at that moment, away from all these 5 distractions, 5 hindrances, or if you like, you can even say the 5 senses. So that brings you the first jhana. Then in the second jhana, you the zest, that is this bubbly joy, settle down. So you have one less jhana factor. The bubbly joy settles down. You have this calm joy, peaceful joy, if you like. So that's the second jhana. In the third jhana, even this joy goes away, you have greater peace, the mind is very focused. And then in the fourth jhana, there is total silence, if you like, this peace, so this equanimity. And the fourth jhana is the most important jhana in the sense that it is the basis for the next 4 meditation stages, the 4 formless attainments, arupa jhana, if you like. So here you have, just to go back a bit, the first jhana is the most important jhana for the other 3 in the rupa jhanas, in the form jhanas. Because once you get the first jhana, you go on practicing it, over time, you should be able to get the second, the fourth. They go like that in sequence. You cannot skip any steps. You go step by step. They're like steps. And so Moggallana is very good. You can go through these steps very fast, all these 4 stages. So in the fourth jhana, the mind is totally equanimous, very peaceful. The focus is very subtle. Now we look at this three stages again. The sphere of infinite space, all right? So in this fourth jhana, the person meditates. So he switches to a new meditation object, to space. Space is empty, right? But, well, it is a meditation object in that sense. So this person experiences the, what should I say, the broadness, the extensiveness of space. Space is infinite, boundless. So he meditates on that, and that's the first formless jhana. So imagine this space is infinite. Now, so after a while, when he has mastered this first jhana, he says, okay, this is, he comes out of it. In jhana, there is some very subtle thought that can happen. In other words, the meditator can sense this is space and I'm going to let go of this object. And then by letting go of the object of boundless space, he goes on to the next level of the formless jhana. Now, there's a big debate here about whether there is thought or no thought in jhana. Now, the first simple answer is that when we speak of jhanas, there is definitely no thought, no thinking, the kind that's going on now in our heads. Because that's the one that is kind of directed to one of the five senses. So that kind of thought doesn't arise in the jhanas. If they do, if any of them do arise, then you'll fall from the jhana. It's not jhana anymore. Get distracted. However, the person is still aware in jhana, in deep jhana, but in a very subtle way. Now, how does this happen? It's very tricky because we will not experience it. We say, oh, it's not possible. So some teachers will tell us totally no thought. Some others say, oh, there is thought because you look at the sutta as mentioned. So you have this big debate because people have not experienced this state. But if we have experienced a little bit of it, you begin to understand better. In fact, let me tell you tonight, a very special way of looking at this. You don't even have to get jhana to know this, that you can have some ideas while in jhana. When you are listening to music, for example, you find that all your senses shut down, in manner of speaking, but only the hearing is, you focus on the hearing. You hear this music, it's very beautiful. And then there comes a time when you're so focused on the music, we don't even say it's hearing, it's very subtle. It's the mind that is directly engaging with all these beautiful sounds coming in, and you feel so peaceful. That is why people love music. So when you are appreciating this kind of beautiful music, you find there are really no thoughts when you're really experiencing it. Of course, there are occasions when some thinking may come. You may say, oh, this nice music and so on, but that will quickly go away. So when you go into jhana, it goes much deeper. So there is this sense, this is peaceful. And you often see this sentence, this peaceful mentioned in the sutta. So the person experiences this peace. So here, once again, coming back to this sentence, the sphere of infinite space. So at this stage, this meditator feels this. Can you imagine? You look at the vastness of space, infinite, boundless, without end, and this amazing joy. Now, you don't have to even see this space. It's not easy unless you're in a spaceship, perhaps. You can, when you climb to the top of a hill or a cliff next time, just look at the open space in front of you, and you have this really amazing, wonderful feeling of vastness in your mind in your being. So this also is a kind of meditation to help you focus, by the way. All right, so coming back to this formless meditation. So this meditator sees this idea and he says, okay, I'm letting go of this idea. So when he lets go of the idea of infinite space, what is left is consciousness. At that very profound level of meditation, this formless jhana, he sees this consciousness as something infinite. Imagine if you can imagine your mind is without end, without beginning, without end, right? So that is his focus. Remember, we're talking about the formless jhana here. It's very high. All right. Then he goes deeper, he masters his meditation, and then he says, okay, now I'm going to let go even of this meditation object. I'm going to let go of the idea that consciousness is infinite or infinite consciousness, because in Pali you can just say infinite consciousness. He lets go of this idea and is left, this time left with nothingness. Nothing left, because if you let go of consciousness, what else is there? Because you will use consciousness to be aware of things. And now this object of consciousness also is gone. So now you have this nothingness as the object. That's amazing, isn't it? To have nothingness as an object of meditation. Now, I think we can imagine, yeah, more or less what nothingness is like, but that's all we can do. We imagine it. But in this formless meditation, you go deeper. You can actually experience it. Okay, so most of the teachings in terms of practice is stopped here. And the sphere of nothingness is said to be the highest of the state of being, bhavagga, the highest. Because in these three stages, there is still some level of perception going on, some very subtle thinking going on. The person is aware of what's going on, and the person can kind of come out of it and then reflect on impermanence. And that can lead to awakening also. Now, when we come to the fourth stage, the sphere of neither perception nor non-perception, that arises when we let go even of this object, mental object of nothingness. Can you imagine how subtle this is? We let go even of nothingness as the meditation object. What is left is neither perception nor non-perception. So imagine you have to use all these big words. Neva sanya, na sanya, yatana. The base or the sphere of neither perception or non-perception. This fourth formless level is so subtle, we can't say there is consciousness or there's no consciousness. Now, because of this, there's no way of thinking at all. There's no way of perceiving at all at this level. So it's not useful for reflecting on impermanence, for any kind of direct knowledge or wisdom, right? Even if you come out of it also, it kind of like, there's nothing there for a while. So usually the fourth stage is not mentioned for this reason, because the meditator is not able to apply any kind of mental process to cultivate wisdom. All right. So that's as far as I understand, and I made it very simple for you to understand. All right. So then we have the next question. But by what means, Avuso, asked Mahā Koṭṭhita, does one understand that which should be known or understand the knowable? How do we know the truth, if you like? How do we know reality? Then Sāriputta replies, what should be known, Avuso, is understood by the wisdom eye. And what, Avuso, is the purpose of the wisdom eye? What is the wisdom? What is the purpose of wisdom here? What is the purpose of wisdom? The purpose of wisdom, Avuso, is direct knowledge. Its purpose is full understanding. Its purpose is letting go. This is high-level meditation language, lots of what I call synonyms. Right? The purpose of meditation, focusing the mind, is to get the wisdom eye, panya chakku. You have heard of people talking about the third eye, right? But they make this third eye like a magical eye, and it loses its meaning in terms of meditation. Here, wisdom eye simply means something liberating that we see beyond our eyes, not only the eyes, beyond the ear, nose, tongue, body, and you see directly into true reality. You understand something. Someone explains something to you, you find, even you close your eyes, say, oh, I understand. So that is wisdom. Then wisdom has a purpose. Okay? It's not just to know things, show off, tell people what to do. Here, Sāriputta says the purpose of wisdom is direct knowledge. The purpose of wisdom is to see directly into true reality. So when you see into true reality, what do you see? You see everything is impermanent. It's the first thing you notice. Now, when you notice this, you must also understand it and then accept it. So this is the first thing. Now, when you understand something is impermanent, you also see, wow, if it is impermanent, there's no way to hold it back, no way to want it, to wish it. It is suffering. It is unsatisfactory. Not satisfying, right? So that is, you have the perception of dukkha also. You see the truth of dukkha. Now, normally that's as far as we go as unawakened beings, because the non-self we can say we understand it intellectually, but we are just the moment of talking, we say, yeah, we understand it, but then back in real life, we go back to our old ways of, thinking of things. This is myself, this I am, and this thing is like that. You have this idea of essence of things and so on. You notice very often Buddhists, they fall back to God idea. They will say, oh my God, and then because this thing is still stuck in us, we're not really free from it yet. We want to be free, but these are our past conditioning, which is very strong, and present conditioning all around us, reminding us to think like these other people who believe in God and soul and so on. So when we understand what is impermanent, we understand what is dukkha, we reflect, we say, therefore all these things cannot be owned, they're not really ours. So you go on like that. Then slowly you build up this wisdom through the three characteristics. And once you understand in this kind of true reality, you find you are not going to hold on to these things. If something's broken, you just say, okay, anicca, right? So whenever you hear something break in the kitchen, don't get angry, don't get upset. Say, well, that's Buddhism. There it is. This cup is reminding us of this wonderful teaching. So you should feel happy, when a cup falls and breaks or a plate falls and breaks. You cannot do this on purpose, all right? It's very costly. So this idea is just to see true reality when it happens. Right? Sometimes you see people getting into an accident. It's also terrible. Of course, we don't enjoy these things, but we say that's the nature of life. It's painful. So you see this, all this with wisdom. You don't get upset with it. You may feel a bit sad because you're not awakened, but you don't get angry or, you try not to feel bad about it, but you stay calm and remind yourself, wow, this is the truth. So what do I do now? Okay. So yeah, we let go of what is impermanent, we let go of what is suffering, we let go of what is not so. In doing so, we feel truly happy. That's the meaning of letting go. It's another word for renunciation in the higher sense, in the true sense of the word. Remember, I keep telling you in our study here, in our meditation, we learn to let go when we meditate. When you keep the precepts, you learn to let go of greed, hatred, delusion, and so on. So the purpose of wisdom is letting go. All right, so I'm going to stop here for a while. Right now we are in section 11. No, 11 and 12 already done. Section 13, okay? So now Mahā Koṭṭhita asks a further question. 13. Avuso, how many conditions are there from which right view arises? Another way of asking this is, what are the conditions for right view? How does right view arise? How do we know, how do we understand things rightly? And Sāriputta replies, Avuso, right view arises from two conditions: the voice of another and wise attention. The voice of another and wise attention. These, Avuso, are the two conditions from which right view arises. Okay. These are very short statements. That is why the suttas need to be explained by teachers and sutta specialists. No? This answers the question, how do we know things also, if you like? From the voice of another, parato gosa. It translates directly, the voice of another. In other words, we hear it from others. Of course, it's a broad term, from others, right? It includes through reading, through social media, and so on. But the stress is there is this direct human communication by the voice of another. So this is where I don't know whether we can regard artificial intelligence that can talk as the voice of another or not. But my understanding, another here refers to a conscious, wise, living being, voice of another. And the second way is even more important. Wise attention is how we ourselves get that understanding through wisely considering, wisely viewing, wisely seeing, directly seeing the true nature of life by noticing impermanence, suffering, and non-self in our experiences. So when we do that, we build up this wisdom bit by bit, yeah? Remember, there's no sudden, what do you call that, explosion of wisdom. You know? It grows gradually like a beautiful plant. Then another question is asked. This time, the question is asked about how to cultivate it. The question is about freedom of mind first and how to cultivate it. So we'll do this one and then we will take some questions. Let's go to number 14 now, further down. Okay, here we go. 14, Avuso, by how many factors is right view assisted when it has freedom of mind for its fruit and the benefit of the fruit of the freedom of mind, and by wisdom for its fruit and the benefit of the fruit of freedom by wisdom? Okay, here we go into some practical issues. Freedom of mind, citta vimutti, freedom by wisdom, paññā vimutti. Now, we can say very, very simply, freedom of mind means when you meditate, your mind is free from the hindrances. You get focus, you get jhana. That's one way of seeing it. And when this is done properly, you can also, get the vision of truth and gain the path. Freedom by wisdom is when ignorance is overcome. The defilements are uprooted. All right. So here the question is asked, how do we gain this kind of really great peace of mind, and how do we overcome all these defilements and all these negative ideas and so on. All right. Now, everything repeats itself, so I'm not going to read that. I'm going to go to the next question. How many factors, all right, can give us this kind of freedom? See, the common word here is freedom. Okay, so the conditions for right view. Right view, Avuso, which has freedom of mind for its fruit, and the benefit of the fruit of the freedom of mind has freedom by wisdom for its fruit, and the benefit of the freedom by wisdom is assisted by 5 factors. Right view is assisted by 5 factors. These are 5 things that help us to gain wisdom. Number 1, moral virtue. Notice sila is there. So this is something like an extended threefold training. The key word here is anugahita. Now, gahita usually means to grasp. Okay, anugahita is continue holding on to something. Here has a good sense, meaning devotion. Devotion to moral virtue, keeping the precepts. Not only keeping the precepts, but understanding what it is, doing it with loving kindness and with joy. So, in that sense, moral virtue is the basis for wisdom. Number 2 is very simple, very direct, by learning. By learning. Now, notice here the Pali word for learning is sutta. Sutta, single T. Sutta is a different word from sutta. Okay, this is sutta meaning what is heard. Sutta no gahita. This one means you dedicate yourself to listening, to learning. So notice the word sutta has a broad meaning to learn, because in ancient time learning means you listen. Right. Of course, nowadays also you have listening to lectures. Then of course now it includes reading and so on. Okay, watching videos. So learning here means you read for yourself. You study, listen, watch. So in a sense, in our modern times, we have more ways of learning than just listening. Okay. By discussion, sākaccā. Notice it's a long sākaccā nugahita. Here means discussion with wise, experienced teachers. This can be a problem today because we have lots of teachers, but most of the titles are academic titles, so they can give you some very interesting academic explanation. But if you can find teachers who are experienced in meditation, that'd be really wonderful. From the peacefulness of their talk and their personality, you can see that they are really full of faith. And just meeting them makes you feel happy and can change your life. So discussion with them definitely will be helpful. And they will be always help guiding you, encouraging you, right? Not discouraging you. And not kind of telling you funny words to put you off, right? So you find this kind of learning is not easy. Finding this kind of teacher is not easy, but we begin by becoming our own teacher. Then the last 2, notice 4 and 5, they refer to meditation, calm and insight, right? But here, we don't see them as meditation, actually. We take them as they are, calm, samatha nugahita. calmness of mind, including meditation leading to calmness of mind. You have to learn to calm your mind. You have to keep your mind calm and keep your mind clear. So keep your mind calm so that it can be clear. And when it is clear, you have insight. You have sight into true reality. That's called vipassana. Vipassana nugahita. So insight here is direct view, direct knowledge, seeing impermanence, suffering, and non-suffering, or at least suffering. So these are 5 practices to help us become wise. These are an extension of the 3 learnings, 3 trainings, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya. Okay. So today I'm going to stop here because the next section talks about cosmology or something else. Yeah. So you can now ask your questions.
Thank you, Piya, for the teaching. Now it's our Q&A. You have any question, can ask it. We'll hand over the session to Sister Isim. Sister Isim, please. Thank you.
Hey, Sister Ratna. Thank you, Brother Piya, for the teaching.
Okay.
Brother and sister, if you have question, you can type in the chat box or you can ask it verbally. Thank you.
I have a question, Brother Piya.
Yes. Yeah, go on to. What happened to your video, by the way?
Okay, I had stopped it. Can you see?
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
My hair will be all.
All right. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah,
So,
okay. Yeah.
I wanted to ask that, yeah, so reading good literature, could it be helpful for our dharma practice? Would it
Yes.
be more of a distraction?
Yeah. And any kind of learning can be helpful. And the next thing to remember is whether the learning is helpful or not, right? So when you read something, why do we read? Right? First of all, we read because something interests us. And you read it, you find, wow, this is interesting. It helps you to know things, understand things. Sometimes for your hobby, which is okay. You know, I mean, it's not, maybe it doesn't help directly in understanding Buddhism, but it makes you feel peaceful. And that peacefulness helps you to work with the Dharma. All right. Now, for example, I do read stories also, right? So I enjoy reading Western literature. So, and that helps me to feel happy, and then I do my work with that happiness. So that's one way you can look at reading. There's some reading which are negative, because that's not very helpful. Then you don't waste your time with that, because it's going to make you feel miserable also. So in fact, a lot of things can be made useful. I mean, they may not appear Buddhist at first, but you can look at it in a Buddhist way, right? So reading can be useful in that sense. Look at it in the Buddhist way. In other words, see the impermanence, the dukkha or unsatisfactoriness and non-self in it. Does that help?
Okay. Yes, Brother Piya. And what could be some of those other things which may not look Buddhist, but again could be helpful?
Well, from the good, we learn what to do. From the bad, we learn what not to do. You find out the world is very complicated today, very powerful people are doing things the way they like, and the newspaper like to report on this kind of, flashy things, and you find they're not very helpful. So usually you find the front page of the newspaper, not much is really worth reading, right? I mean, it's about politicians and so on and so forth. So on the other hand, you can tell yourself, in my position, I have a better choice. I can learn to be myself, to be at peace, compared to many of these powerful people who lead very strange lives, trying to control others and so on. So you begin to see how fortunate you are in your position, the ability, the freedom that you have. And then sometimes you read stories about others, how they suffer, and you say, wow, look at that, people are still, despite our advancement in science and so on, people still suffer with all the strange diseases and so on. So you get this information which helps you to like put yourself in a middle way. All right. And of course, if you are a scientist or you're a doctor, you find you want to help these people, or you're a social worker, you want to help these people. Okay. So that's how reading can be helpful. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Any other question?
Sorry, Brother Piya.
Yes.
Get you here.
Yes. Sure.
So, in relation to point 14.4, the 5 factors.
Yes.
So when we talk about learning and discussion,
Yes.
is that not specific to the Dhamma?
Ideally, yes. Ideally, it'd be related to the Dharma. The thing we must remember is, what is the Dharma? To simplify it, we can say anicca, dukkha, anatta, basically, right? I mean, Dharma is about impermanence, dukkha, suffering, about non-self. And where do you see all this? These trees is basically everywhere, right? So Dharma is there, but it's hidden by views, by wrong views, by ignorance, and so on. So what I'm saying is, when we go around with the Dharma eye or wisdom eye, you begin to notice the Dharma is everywhere. You know, Ajahn Chah likes to say everything is teaching us. So you find even some of these other people from other religions, they talk in their strange ways. But when you listen, you see, these people, okay, that's as far as they know, but you understand better what's going on. You see, so you learn something there, that what they're missing, you see. Of course, ideally, you go back to the Dhamma. But we cannot exist just, like in ostrich, only the Dhamma, only the suttas, only the books you have, You find our life is very complicated. The moment you wake up, you step out of your house, you find you meet all kinds of people. And not many of them are Buddhists. Or even if you go to the temple, you find the things they do are totally different from what the Buddha taught. So, and there's so much things we need to change today. And people don't learn much Buddhism. The Buddhists are not learning much Buddhism, sadly. So this is why I feel I should do this work of translation, giving all the notes, so that intelligent people, like you're present here, people who are dedicated to the Dharma, you can study, and by your understanding, by your example, you connect to them, you teach them this direct vision, going straight to the Dharma instead of doing all kinds of puja and chanting and thinking that that's Buddhism. Okay? And there was a time when I was told that, oh, I only know Dhamma, but this person can chant very well, and he's a better Buddhist. So how do you talk to such people, I mean, already the basis is not even there. So you find something with these people, nothing much to talk really, So, but there are people who really want to know things, who are wise. Wise doesn't mean knowing a lot of things. Now, wise means you want to know, you want to find out, and you're not afraid to find out, and you're not afraid to share what you have discovered. Of course, I would agree with you. The ultimately is the Dharma. That's what we discover at the level of true reality. Yes.
That's where I was coming from, because discussion, many times we engage in discussions about the suttas or about the Buddha's teachings, supposedly, and it's always subject to people's interpretation, perception, and sometimes it may not even be quite correct. So that's why I feel like it should be anchored around and on
Yes.
the suttas, you
Yeah,
know, and if
very
at
true.
any point in time a person is actually not so
Mm,
sure or certain about what the Buddha is trying to say through the suttas, I
yeah.
think one should perhaps be a little bit more diffident and sort of like reserve their thoughts.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
I mean, that's
Well, I have sutta group leaders often tell me the difficulties with their students, you know, things like that. One way is we prepare ourselves well, especially as the leader of a study group. We prepared well for the sutta, and then we present it clearly enough with some idea of experience, not just textual knowledge, but also relating it to daily life, and people can say, oh yes, I see it now. And they find that it's a living experience. And then you find people who stray away, they come up with all kinds of funny ideas. Again, we have to think of a way of inspiring them, talking in such a way that guiding them from what they're talking to something which is connected. Because they're talking from where they are, you see, and they don't have that vision of the Dhamma. So you have to help them, make them turn their head a little bit to look at the Dhamma. It's not easy. Of course, you got to know them. If you know their interests, their hobbies, or you know them as a friend, it's easier. So it's not easy, you know, teaching Dhamma. Maybe that's one reason why I opt for sutta work than actually teaching out there, because it's more difficult when you meet such people. And sometimes we also misunderstand them. It's not easy, you know, right? So that's why spiritual friendship is very important. We build up this spiritual friendship first. If you come as antagonist, you want to find out, or you want to say, oh, I want to prove this teacher wrong, then totally it's a wrong attitude already, you know? Yeah. So yeah, I would say teaching Dhamma is not easy. It's difficult. That is why we should begin with spiritual friendship. There must be some basis of spiritual friendship. Always find ways of building this up in your study group. And the leader should be someone inspiring who knows Dhamma, who also kind of is able to share his life in the Dhamma, not merely telling sad stories about his suffering, but also happy stories about how he lives in the Dhamma. Now, this is a real problem, you know, it's a very difficult situation. That's why those days, in my younger days, we have regular Dhamma courses. We train these young people to talk to each other and then discover problems and how to solve them, how to talk in an inspiring way, in a clear way. Okay. Any other question? Got 5 more minutes.
the other question I have is with regard to the abandoning of the 5 hindrances.
All right.
I understood it as that happening before one could actually get into even the first jhana.
Oh,
Not
yes.
so,
Yes.
not so much the formless jhanas.
No, formless is, these are great arhats talking to each other and talking about deep meditation. It's a very broad series of teachings. Yeah. In fact, the first jhana is the most important. You have to get to the first jhana before you even get to formless jhana. So from the first, you go second, third, fourth, and so on. So overcoming the hindrances is very, very basic to attaining dhyana.
Okay.
I have some proofreaders. Most of my proofreaders anyway, they're very attentive people. They really read carefully the suttas. So it's really wonderful to know at least there are people like that. And that's very helpful. Yeah. We have a couple of minutes more. Anyone? Any last minute question?
Brother Piya,
Yes, Mayam?
how to overcome fear and also
Oh,
anxiety or uncertainty,
right.
these kind of things?
Okay. Now, fear, anxiety, all this arises from something we desire, something we want, something we care a lot for. So one simple way is always to see this, if it's a person, to see this person in a positive way, to do what you can for this person while the person is still alive, while the person is safe and healthy and so on. And you tell yourself it is inevitable that all these things will change. And I may one day even lose this wonderful person, despite all this. And when you tell yourself that, you face your fear. It's not like this person is going to disappear overnight. But, well, that's the fact of life. That is what Buddhism keeps reminding us. And in fact, see, the point is not to keep on thinking about what we're going to lose, but we keep on doing something happy, positive, and good, giving even something simple like giving our attention to this person we care for, or this something we care for, right? Another point is, of course, to clear the mind of this negative thought, because fear is just a thought. So I'm going to say this loving kindness, right? And because when you have loving kindness, it's joyful. So when you have this joyful state, it becomes a joyful mind. And the joyful mind pushes away the negative thought. So even with a joyful mind, we lose people, but then you don't have that darkness, that sorrowful state. You face it with joy and you continue your life, because that's the nature of all life, you see. They take a new form. They leave this body, they take a new form. I mean, this thing's even more real for me, at my age, right? How many more years do we have? Singapore, they announced now, okay, Singaporean lifespan lengthening. Men can live up to what, like 81, 82, and women like 84, 85. But then I'm 76, I think. So I have about 5 more years to go, So I tell myself, wow, I better make sure I do as much of my sutta work as I can. But then again, I'm not going to rush it and say, oh no, I'm going to die, and I just do it. I do it happily. I do it because I enjoy doing it. And you just go on doing that. And if your habit is a good habit, you will come back to it as you have done before, I mean, it's not the first time we're doing this, I'm sure we have done before in past lives. So that's the nature of life. We come, we go. And while we're here, let us be kind and loving to each other. And that's how you actually know the person, right? So that's a reflection on impermanence. Okay.
So,
Yeah.
Brother Piya, so what when the fear is not about somebody else, but about your own self? What's going to happen, or something bad might happen, or good might happen. Not some other person, but you.
Yeah. So remember the famous short sutta. If you ask yourself, what do I do next? What do I do next? And you do that next thing instead of fearing. See? In a sense, fear can be good. Because, for example, when you touch something hot, you fear you don't want to touch it again. So it prevents you from being hurt again. So take fear as something positive, as something preventing hurt and harm and ignorance, rather than something negative.
But sometimes it can stop us from doing what might be risky but beneficial for us also, right?
It may happen, but then you spend time and reflect and ask yourself, why Was I afraid of doing this? And then you make a resolve. Say, okay, how do you sort out this fear that you have, so that you will not be afraid to do this good thing in the future? So this is a time for reflection, examining your strategies the next time, instead of just licking your wounds, or just saying, oh, I can't do it, and then you just say, I'm afraid. You keep on saying, I'm afraid, you'll be afraid because you're reinforcing it. So if you're afraid, you must say, I'm not going to be afraid. I don't have to be afraid. Let me be brave. So use positive sense. It's all in the mind in that sense, isn't it? So, and mix with people who encourage you, who are happy, and that's how you do it. Okay, we are past time now.
Okay,
all right.
thank you.
Yeah, so let us close with a short reflection. Once again, let us remember this wonderful moment we're gathered here and reflect on this peace that we have. We have recited the 3 refuges, the 5 precepts, done some meditation, and we have discussed Dhamma, studied Dhamma, and all these good things today. May tell yourself, may I be well, may I be happy, and so on. All the good wishes for yourself. And send the same kind thoughts to your loved ones and others who are important to you. And now we close by saluting the 3 jewels in deep gratitude. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Apivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supati Panno Bhagavato Savakasango Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.